Leader of Down is the brainchild of former Motörhead guitarist Würzel and bass player Tim Atkinson. They released their first album, Cascade Into Chaos, in 2018. And this Friday, the utterly fantastic The Screwtape Letters hits the shelves. I'm delighted to welcome band co-founder Tim Atkinson to MetalTalk TV. Evening, Tim. How are you?
I'm very well, Steve. Thank you very much for having me on. Hope you're good.
Yeah, all good. Thank you. My wife's going to love this bit. Can you explain where the name Leader of Down came from, please?
Yes, I can. Right. You know what it's like with bands. Picking a name is quite a difficult thing, and some bands have names that you remember. Other bands have don't. And even things like the Beatles, we're so used to it. But if you break it down, it's a bit of a crappy name, really. Yeah. But you're so used to it, and we just couldn't come up with one. And then Würzel was telling us this story of how for many, many, many years he thought the lyrics to the Status Quo song Down Down went down down leader of down, as opposed to down down deeper and down. And he'd been confidently sort of singing that in the car and everything for years, until some of his friends picked him up on that. And he'd been doing it for donkey's years. So we thought that was hilarious. And then I think Würzel said, well, we could call it Leader of Down. So we didn't have anything better. And then I think actually after Würzel passed away, it actually became quite a nice thing, because it was called Leader of Down, before Würzel died, obviously. But it was a nice little link with him that wasn't an obvious link. It was a nice little story. Sort of reminded everyone of what he was like, really.
Yeah, no, that's cool. My wife is the queen of misheard lyrics, so
really?
Yeah, she'll appreciate that, and she loves Status Quo now. So yeah, you mentioned Würzel. He passed away in 2011, but you've been songwriting with him since late 2008, I think. How inspirational was it to work with him and add melody and lyrics to his riffs?
The funny thing was, I'd been a Motörhead fan since I was 9 years old. So to actually sort of work and become really, really close friends with, one of my heroes was a big thing anyway. But we were such good mates in the end. It was so lovely. But working with him in terms of writing, because I knew really the Motörhead back catalogue inside out, I tend to have like a fairly good idea with what he might decide to do when we were working on a song, like where he might want to go with it. So it was actually a little bit like we've been working together for years. Even on the first time, we sat down and wrote something, and Würzel had lots of riffs. He kept all sorts of cassette tapes with little bits and pieces, and we worked with some of those. We came up with some new bits. We added different sections, and we used to meet up pretty much every Wednesday and sit in a studio in London, a rehearsal studio. And we just have a ball, just me and him for months and months and months. And it was great. And actually the song Paradise Turned Into Dust, which ended up having Lemmy singing on it from the first record, that was the first one we ever did. And Würzel said to me, he said, Lemmy would be great on this. And I remember him saying it really early on. And I thought, well, yeah, it would be. But, and then it ended up happening. But when we were writing that, we were having a little bit of trouble with coming up with a sort of chorus section, and Würzel needed the toilet, so he said, you carry on doing it and I'm going to go to the toilet. So he went out and I carried on fiddling about and coming up with things for about 10 minutes, and I was thinking to myself, well, he's taking a long time. And then suddenly I'd worked on something that I'd practiced a few times and it sounded okay, and then the double doors of the studio flung open and there was Würzel, and he said, by Jove, you've got it. He'd been standing outside the door, desperate for the loo, but because he felt I was getting there, he waited, and then he goes, I've got to go now, and he whizzed off to the toilet. So that's a bit what they were like, It was loads of fun. Würzel was hilarious and such a lovely, lovely man, and I miss him all the time. But it was great fun, and it was brilliant. And then Würzel didn't want to write the lyrics. It wasn't his strong point, so he said, I want you to do it. So that was in the end how the sort of roles within the band started, really.
So the Screwtape Letters, yeah, which is coming out. I
Oh,
thought it's an excellent album. Yeah,
well, thank
I first listened to it in the car driving to Norwich and was just blown away. Actually, you must be really excited for the release.
Yeah, I mean, all the feedback so far from everyone, and thank you for yours, has been really, really positive. We've had some really good reviews. And it's so I'm very proud of it. It probably sounds a little bit more maybe consistent than the first record because we recorded it all in the same place over the same time. The first album was recorded in many different studios all around the world, obviously lots of people on it as well.
Yeah.
This was us sort of able to almost like find our path a little bit. And yeah, I am absolutely thrilled with it. And there's still some of Wurzel's riffs on there. He's not playing on it, but me and him probably did the basis or parts of sort of 50 or 60 tracks.
Yep.
And bits of them are on this one, which I like as well because it helps keep what we actually started the whole band off, what the point was in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, and it sort of keeps him here for me a little bit, really.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's great when I can make an emotional attachment to the album. So the first listen through in the car, it kind of made me think of about watching a band, stood in a bar, leather jacket, trying to grow my hair long and kind of away from all the troubles and stress of modern life. It was kind of fantastic escapism. And those first two run throughs were really immense. Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that.
So Holloway Motel is the first of 4 songs that Würzel had a hand or writing credit. It's a fantastic track. I have to ask you what went on in room 11.
Right. Well, let me give you the backstory a bit. So the bit that Würzel wrote was the main riff of the song. And well, me and him did that together. And Holloway Motel is the name of the motel in Los Angeles on Santa Monica Boulevard. And if anyone knows Los Angeles, it's almost opposite the famous bar called Barney's Beanery. And there's this little motel. And when we were working with Lemmy and recording with Lemmy and going over to see Lemmy, that was where we stayed. And at times, it felt like I lived there because I mean, at one point I was there for, I think, virtually 2 months. I came back to England for 5 days and then Lemmy said he's ready now. And I flew back again to the same hotel. So room 11 was one of the rooms we stayed in. But it was just really about that time in my life. And thankfully it wasn't like the Norwich Travel Tavern because that wouldn't have been quite such a good title. But it's a little independent motel, which I'd say for 2 years, I was probably there every 3 months for at least 2 or 3 weeks. So that was what that was about, and I quite like the name.
Okay, that's cool. Santa Monica Boulevard's not really equidistant, though, is it? You know, so.
No, exactly.
Cool. I mean, it's a monster track, yeah, and Matt Baker's vocals are great in there. There's almost kind of like an edgy Graham Bonnet sound in there in places, yeah. But he's actually great across the album. Matt was on an episode of The Voice.
He certainly was. Well spotted. Yeah, he was. I think from memory, he sung the Lenny Kravitz track. Are you going to
go my way? Yeah, I did.
And he did great, but thankfully he didn't win because we've got him with us now.
Yeah. I mean, he sounds much better than he did on The Voice now. Yeah. That has to be said.
I'll tell him. I'll see him later. We're rehearsing tonight, so.
Right, cool. Hitman released as a single, cracking song too. Brilliant classic riff there. It must have been cool to have Dennis Stratton on there as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And Dennis is a sort of long-term friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. And when we were recording that, I just sort of had Dennis in mind because I thought, you know, it might be right up his street. And he's played on stage with us a couple of times, come up and done a few songs. So I asked him, and he thankfully said yes, and it was great. And then it was really, I don't know if you've seen the video, but we got him, you know, as a sort of prisoner, and he sort of broke free from his sack we put on his head, which we didn't tell him actually when he arrived. He was going to spend most of it under a sack. But you know, Dennis is a great guy and really good laugh and a good sport. And yeah, that was fantastic. And yeah, it's turned out really well actually, that track. You know,
I mean, it peaked at #2 on the iTunes heavy metal chart. Yeah, I mean that's got to be hugely encouraging.
Yeah, it was great. You know, I mean, when you say I wasn't expecting that, that sounds like I wasn't expecting it to do well, but it really was. I got the message it's gone up to #2. You know, that was amazing, absolutely amazing. So yeah, we're really thrilled and just obviously glad that people seem to be enjoying it, which is what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah. You mentioned the film, the video. Yeah, that looked fun to shoot. You enjoy those sort of things, or?
Yeah, they're always good fun. We actually did. It was over a few days. We did 2 videos over that sort of period. You know, back to back. Dennis is obviously only in one of them, and yeah, they're good. It's good fun. You know, it's a long day, a lot of work, but it's good. It's good fun, and you know, it's always nice, like with people like Dennis, who, like I said, he's a good friend anyway, but he's always got a few jokes and a few stories, so it's always a nice day. So that was really good fun. Yeah.
He's I hear he's playing your album launch show on the 8th. Is that right?
He is. So this Friday we've got a show, and Dennis is coming up, and I'll tell you exclusively, Steve, he's coming up for 3 songs. One of them will be, of course, Hitman. But yeah, he's coming up for 3 tracks. So that'll be fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. Title track, the Screwtape Letters is immense. Yeah, that galloping bass you've got on the verses and through the guitar solo is going to sound immense live.
I hope so. So Friday will be the first time we've played it live. I'll have to let you know how it sounds. But yeah, we've been rehearsing this week and a bit last week as well. So yeah, it's all going great. And it's nice as well with these new songs, even though we've sat with them for a while, obviously, because we recorded the album and things. But this is the first time we're really going to play most of them live. And they seem to lend themselves a bit as live tracks as well. You can sort of imagine when you're playing it, how it's gonna go across. And I think with this record, possibly some of the tracks may be slightly more catchy. Hook wise, and always obviously live, those things are great because the crowd have something to latch onto.
Yeah, I mean that like I say, those first couple of listen through I had in the car, it just stunk of live. Yeah, it was just like, this is going to be fantastic live. Obviously the Screwtape Letters, the title track, that's based on the C.S. Lewis book.
Certainly is. Say based is completely ripped off totally from the C.S. Lewis book. The reason for that, I've always liked, and Würzel did as well, unusual titles or things that you think, oh, what's that about? So, you know, on our first record, we had that song called Serial Killjoy, things like that, and Cascade Into Chaos, our first record. That was a little phrase that Würzel sometimes used to say, it's cascading into chaos. And I love all that, the little wordplay things. And my dad was a priest. He was a vicar. So when I was probably about 14, obviously deeply into heavy metal and heavy rock, he gave me that as a present because he probably thought if he was going to give me a religious book, something that was a bit more quirky and something might appeal to me more. And I really enjoyed the book. And when I was talking to Würzel, you know, many years later, we'd always talk about odd things. We'd have the most ridiculous conversations actually, and that came up, and he, I know Screw, and I just remembered him liking it as well, and it meant quite a lot to me. And of course, because it wasn't one of C.S. Lewis's more famous books, because obviously he had, you know, Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe and all the Narnia things, a lot of people don't know what it is, so they can even look or they ask or whatever, but I think it's something people go, oh, that's a bit strange. Rather than an album called, you know, Come On Everybody, or do you know what I mean? I've always liked that sort of thing, so that's really the reason. I try and have something that's got some sort of meaning, even though it might mean something different to everybody else. I had some meaning in the first place when we wrote the track.
Cool.
So
I might
that
have
was a long-winded waffling.
Yeah, no,
that's
that's fine. I mean, I've probably because of Lion Witch of the Wardrobe. Yeah, I've always just kind of like no, that's not for me. I might have to have a look at that while the wife's away. Dodging the Landlord. Yeah, I mean that's another track that would be a shoe-in for the set. Yeah, that's a fantastic live one.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, it's that's Wurzel's title. Right. So Würzel would have quite a lot of like working titles or instrumental type bits and pieces, and when we had one that was a little bit of a, not to say unusual, but a bit of a quirky title, I always tried to fit the lyrics in around that title that we had in the first place, really. So that was a title he had from many years ago from an old song he did with another band, but the song is completely different. Yeah, it's just the title really that we've got on that.
It's good. It's cool. Again, I love Matt's vocals on that. He really goes for it. Yeah, and you got that fantastic solo section in there. There's a lot that fits in like sort of under 4 minutes. Yeah, when I was listening to it again early today. Yeah, and it's kind of got that epic kind of there's several themes in it. Yeah, and it finishes and you kind of look and well, that's only about 3 minutes 40 seconds. Yeah.
They do seem longer sometimes. There's a lot going on in them, and maybe we should play a bit slower, a bit longer. But we wanted to make it quite punchy. This record, so you might notice that the gap between songs isn't that big. Yeah, because we want it to be whoosh, and again, a bit more like a live, type show. So that was deliberate, really. That plan.
And
it seems to work sometimes with certain records. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's something you only pick up if you listen to it on CD or vinyl, of course. Yeah, not this streaming malarkey. Let them know your name. Yeah, that's another great example of how a kind of straightforward riff can really kick ass. And Whiskey Preacher, I love that one as well. It's a really great song. Was that written about someone you know, or?
I think it's probably written about someone everybody knows, really. It's no one in particular.
Right. Okay.
It's more, it's really, I think everybody will know somebody like that. And the title is really good. I like the title.
Yeah.
And then we sort of spun it out from there. But I think sometimes my favourite songs, for example, are sometimes ones you can take your own meaning from it. And I quite like it when I hear the artist say, "Oh, it's about their dog," and I'm thinking it's about the Crusaders or something. I quite like that. So I think that one is something for everyone, really, because we all know someone who.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Too much and tells everyone. So.
Midnight in London. Yeah, it's a great track to close. Midnight in London, just killing time is the lyric. I take that's not really a commentary on the troubles of late night train service, is it?
No. That's a Würzel track, and that was actually one of the B-sides of a little solo thing he did in the late 80s when he was in Motörhead, and it was one I'd always liked the song, and he always said if we ever redid it, he wanted to beef it up a little bit, which is what we've done. And I've always liked that song. And there's quite a funny story with that, actually, Steve, is there's one lyric that we could not, for love nor money, work out what Würzel was singing originally when he did his original recording. And I spoke to his partner. She was listening, couldn't remember what we were looking. I was looking through stuff. I was looking online, load of stuff that Würzel had sort of left me and stuff his partner had. So we had to make an approximation of what it was. But I don't think anyone's noticed.
I'm going to sit and try and work out what that line is then. Yeah. So, I mean, congratulations on the album. I really like it. I mean, Sean McGee was involved. He's got a fantastic CV, hasn't he?
Yeah, Sean is a really, really nice man and a superb mastering engineer. So he mastered the first one as well. And we wanted to reuse him again. He's so easy to work with, and obviously Abbey Road as well. And then we had Cameron Webb Motörhead's producer, mixing this one again, which he did the first one as well, and it was really nice. You know, it's funny, like I'm always saying, like everyone's really nice, but they are. All the people who work with such great guys and obviously know their stuff. But you know, really, it's a pleasure to be with them and in their company.
Yeah, cool. I mean, there'll always be the Würzel connection, yeah. But you kind of listen to the album now; it doesn't really define the band now. But that connection is obviously something, and that you and the guys, you know, you really embrace, especially positioning that track at the end, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously as time goes, you know, we're developing into our own thing, and I like to feel that if Würzel was still here, he'd be sort of moving along with us. I always try and sort of stay true to what me and Würzel had discussed right at the very beginning when we started, because what actually happened when the band started, we were doing these sort of rock school clinics and things. Me and Würzel, we were doing all sorts of those things together. And it was growing great. We were having a whale of a time. And I said, Würzel, we should form a band. And he said to me, I've been waiting 2 months to ask you that, dear boy, but I didn't think you'd want to do it with me. And I said, you silly twat, you know, why? And that's how it was. And that's how lovely Würzel was. And it was something that was very special to me, and I hope to Würzel. And I always want to try and honour how we wanted it to sound in the first place, which the idea generally was a little bit along the lines of some of the more obviously catchy Motörhead songs. I don't know how well you know some of their sort of back catalogue, but there's songs like All For You off the Rock and Roll album, Too Good To Be True off the March Will Die album. They are great tracks, but they're possibly a little bit more poppy, but still very heavy. We were trying to create that sort of thing, but of course with a vocalist that didn't sound anything like Lemmy, because that would have just been ridiculous if we tried to get a Lemmy sound alike in a band with Würzel. So that was the plan. And I think now, particularly with this record, I feel we're on the way to sort of achieving some of that initial sort of what they call it, mission statement or whatever nonsense people say now, but that sort of thing. And I'm often finding myself when we're recording or when I'm writing or we're doing stuff together, thinking, right, what would you think, Würzel? And I know what he'd say. If he really didn't like it, I normally didn't like it as well.
Right.
But he would always say things like, well, I think it's all right. What do you think, dear boy? So it wouldn't just be whatever Würzel wanted. There'd be a lot of what, you know, we'd go backwards and forwards. And I sometimes, you know, pop outside the studio and have these little conversations with him in my head. So I hope that, you know, it's stuff he would like. And I think, you know, there's obviously lots of his little bits of riffs and little segments we've worked on there. And on stuff I know he likes as well, not just stuff that we've picked out, stuff I know that made the cut when we were sort of collating the sort of storage unit of little riffs we liked.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, it you know, it always was a band, wasn't it? You know, back in 2008, it was going to be a band. Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't just about one person. You know, but that was
always a plan. That was always a plan. No, Würzel didn't want like Würzel and Friends. It wasn't supposed to be like that. It was supposed to be a band.
So do you feel a kind of responsibility to take a certain musical direction, or do you think you and Würzel were that in tune? Yeah, and now you and the other three guys are so in tune that the future was kind of mapped out musically anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I can still feel like what it was like when we used to write together. And I know that, to be honest with you, most of the stuff I really liked, Würzel liked. There was stuff, obviously, we'd disagree slightly on, but the stuff that I really liked, Würzel would also really like. Or the stuff he really liked, I would, oh yeah, that's great. And we'd normally, if we were trying to, if we were writing something, it was going a bit sort of Pink Floyd type stuff, Würzel would go, well, I love that, but that's totally unsuitable, you know. So we would know, you know, where we were going to go. And I think I'm trying to be, and it might sound a bit odd, but almost like the guardian of what we were discussing all those years ago. That this is how we envisaged it sounding. And that's what I'm trying to do, really. But luckily, I like how it sounds, you know, and I love doing it, and I like what we're creating, which is sort of maybe a hard-hitting sort of rock and roll sound rather than a real tradition, a more modern metal sound, which is possibly a bit more. We're not really like that. It's a bit more swing to it, which Motörhead had. It's just they sounded immensely heavy, and also because Lemmy's voice was so throaty, it made it sound heavier, even though obviously it was exceptionally. But there's a lot of groove to Motörhead tracks, and that was the thing I think we tried to get, but obviously not trying to sound like that. But obviously they're a big influence. Yeah,
you must miss him.
Big time, you know. I don't think you meet many people in your life that, whether it's partners or friends, that you really click with, like really, you know. And I'd be Würzel would phone me up at 3 in the morning to tell me something absolutely ridiculous that I really didn't need to know, but we'd all laugh. We'd laugh. You know, it was just like that, and we'd text each other silly, and we'd text him back. It was. I miss him immensely, especially, you know, late at night and stuff. When I know Würzel would always be up. I mean, there was one time when he was going to go on stage with Motörhead as a guest, you know, years after he'd left, and he wanted to do the moonwalk on the stage, and I can do it a tiny bit. So he said, "Can you? We'll come down." And we were outside the back of a pub in North London at 11:30 at night in the rain, trying to teach Würzel to moonwalk. You know, and it's things like that is not, shall we say, the norm for people sort of Wednesday evenings. And we had all sorts of things like that, and it was such fun. And I miss him every day, every single day.
I'd like to see the CCTV from that.
So would I.
So if Cascade Into Chaos was a tribute to Würzel and other fallen Motörhead heroes, then you know, can we look at the Screwtape Letters as being seen as a tribute to the fans, maybe, and music in general, and getting out of this COVID shit?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you know, that's probably a good way of looking at it. You know, it's going to be, we're playing our first show is this Friday, the 8th of April, and you know, we're really looking forward to it. And first one we've played since COVID. The last one was in Berlin before the lockdown. And quite possibly. But, you know, we'll always, even if we do like 20 albums, you know, fingers crossed we have a sort of career that long. But Würzel will always be dedicated. The album will always be dedicated to him.
Nice touch. You also play No Sleep Till Blackpool Motörhead weekend in May. You working on other dates for the year?
Yeah, we are. We're hoping to get to Italy later in the year, and we'll be back to Europe again in the autumn and winter, and potentially some small shows in the UK in July. And we've already got dates being booked for next year. We're at the Hard Rock Hell New Wave of Classic Rock show at the end of January in 2023 in Leicester, at the O2 in Leicester. So that's really good. One of the difficult things actually with this year is because some of the festivals that are going to be on this year haven't actually happened since 2019. So they've obviously still got the same lineup. So it's like this backlog. If you didn't get back on 3 years ago, you can't get on this summer. So we're working a lot on 2023, but there will be quite a few more shows this year. Cool.
Any message for the fans?
Well, hello everybody, and hope you like the new record. Thank you for buying it, streaming it, listening to it, whatever you've done. And we hope to see you live at some point very soon.
Cool. Awesome. Good luck for Friday. Album release and the live show as well. Brilliant. Album's great. Thank you very much. We wish you all the best for the future, and I hope to see you in the summer strumming away.
Brilliant, Steve. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Tim. Thank you.
Bye, mate.